sales tax and dedicated that tax towards the education system. Our two-year school system gets a portion of that tax, Gadsden State Community College. It's done wonders for them. Without them, Dr. Martha Lavender said that she didn't know how she'd operate on the new building expansion she has going on campus. So, you know, as a property tax, I would almost put that on a per county or per district basis. I don't see anything changing on a statewide basis on that, just to be honest.
I am originally from Boston, Massachusetts. My parents, my dad stays, my mom's in Troy. When my father comes to visit me in Alabama, and he sees the property tax that I pay on my home, which is the modest home, he is absolutely blown away. People from outside of the state cannot believe how little property tax we pay in this state. Public education in the state is funded primarily in two ways, that's sales and income tax. The problem with that is you're always kind of connected to the whim of the economy. When the economy is good, more people are employed, more people pay income tax, you have more money, you go out to eat, you buy clothes, you go shopping, you go to the movies, you pay sales tax. As we've just experienced over the last several years, when that tide goes down, so does the revenue that goes to the school systems. We just talked a second ago about what happens when you have proration. Proration is when you don't have the money you thought you were going to have for the coming year. We hope that because of the money that's being set to the side, it's less than before, but the money that's set aside with the Rolling Reserve Act, we hope cross our fingers and pray that we don't have another bout with proration. But proration is like rainy weather. It's going to come eventually, or tight times financially are going to come eventually. There'll be sun, but there'll be rain. And we can pretty much predict that. The only thing that's constant is change.
You can predict, right?
Well, I can predict it, I just can't order it. I ordered a bright sunny day for you today, it didn't work out. But we know that it's coming. I don't foresee property tax coming up because it's such a, it's like someone said a little while ago, everybody wants, my grandmother used to say, everybody wants to go to heaven, nobody wants to die. You have to do what it is that you have to do in order to get what you want. And property tax increases are essential to a better education system. It's not a coincidence when you go through the country and you look at areas that have substantial property tax, they always have nicer schools. It's just the way it is. And until we dig deep and search within ourselves and decide whether or not we're, as a state, we're willing to increase property taxes, I think that will always be an issue. But as it stands, we are, I think, if not one of the lowest property tax states in the country.
Yeah, I believe we're number 50. But if you look at what happened in the last 5 years, people didn't, and one problem we have in Alabama, the people have to vote on property tax. If you go and increase it, in Baldwin County, for schools, they voted it down. Collier County, right over here, for schools, they voted it down. Jackson County, for schools, they voted it down. City of Athens voted down, 68 to 32% or something like that. That shocked me, that number did. But people are just not in the groove to vote for property taxes for education. And how do you change that? In my opinion, if you're going to raise taxes in Alabama, the place that we're lacking is in property tax. But nobody wants to pay property tax.
Can I piggyback on that? If we're talking about funding, I think this goes hand in hand. It's kind of crazy to me that we're surrounded by states that have forms of gaming. We have 3 states that have lotteries. We have 1 that have casinos in Mississippi. Something that's palatable to the people of Alabama that's polling almost 70% is a lottery. Why we don't, as a legislature, allow the people to have the right to vote on a lottery and put that money towards the education system is just beside me. Now, I've told my guy Lance in the back, I'm not going to get partisan, but I'm the minority leader, okay? So I'm going to get a little partisan on this one. Parker Griffiths up here who ran for governor, he ran on the lottery. Governor Bentley said he was going to not stand in the way of people being able to vote on a lottery. Well, I hadn't seen a lottery in the last 6 years since he's been governor, have you? So I have proposed a lottery bill for the past 6 years. The problem with the supermajority in Montgomery is, and it's not these guys up here, it's the upper echelon, the leadership, they get to pick and choose what bills are debated. I can't even get my bill, being a Democrat, into committee up for debate. I was told until one of our people, one of their people, which is a Republican, sponsors the lottery bill, the people will never have the right to vote on it. So I don't care if a Republican sponsors it, or a Democrat, or somebody in the Whig Party. It could care less than me. The people want the opportunity to vote on a lottery. And instead of raising your taxes, why don't we pass some voluntary taxes first, i.e. lottery, casinos, let you decide what you want. And then not only that, let's start taxing these out-of-state corporations that aren't paying any of their fair share in taxes in the state of Alabama. And that's taking money right out of the Education Trust Fund. And what is beyond me is our local pharmacist downtown that owns an independent pharmacy. They're hurting because we're allowing the big box stores from out of state to come in. They get all the tax breaks, but they're having to pay their fair share in taxes. That's not right. That's not fair. But if you follow the money trail, it'll all make sense to you. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, I think the people of Alabama need to push for a lottery or some form of gaming, and that's a voluntary tax. If you don't want to pay it, don't play it. But there's some money right there that we could go after that we're losing across state line. 2 of the top 5 stores in Tennessee are on the Tennessee-Alabama line. Did you know that's a fact? They said it. 2 of the top 6 stores in Georgia, we tied for number 3, are on the Georgia-Alabama line. Now, I live in Etowah County on the eastern side of the state. Come Friday, you better get out of the way going to wrong Georgia, because people are going to get their lottery tickets. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's a tragedy. You go to Beau Rivage or Biloxi, you count the tags and see how many are from Alabama. Let's keep Alabama's money in Alabama. Let's put our kids to college, and let's quit funding Georgia's kids.
All right, we're gonna move on here.
Just to follow up to what's mentioned in Lynn and Craig both mentioned it, Baldwin County had 5 taxes. One of them passed. 3 of them were renewals. 2 of them were new taxes. 1 of them passed. The other 2 renewals will be on the ballot next March the 1st. And then Tuscaloosa and Sylacauga and Birmingham all did pass overwhelmingly new taxes for schools this past year. So while a lot of them didn't, they didn't all fail. And I might add on the Baldwin County situation, and this is just kind of a pet peeve of mine, that vote was last March the 31st, and I think this really speaks to the attitude about education in Alabama. The young fellow who led the effort to defeat the tax vote, the governor then appointed him to the State Board of Education. And I just don't see how in the world somebody who goes out and tries to make sure Baldwin County is gaining an elementary school a year. It's one of the fastest growing counties in the nation. And here's a guy who said they got the second highest number of portables in the state. And here's a guy who said, I don't mind your children, because he said his children ain't going to go to public school. I don't mind your children going to school in a tin can. I don't get it.
All right, we're gonna have to move on. I got a lot of questions here, and we're already eating up a lot of time. So
I agree with Representative Ford on the lottery. Let's do it. I don't gamble. You don't have to buy a ticket, but let's do it next year, this coming year.
all right.
Are you a wig?
All right, next question. There's a direct correlation between education spending and prison spending. Spend less on education, spend more on prisons. How do you reconcile cutting education with that knowledge? Who wants to tackle that one?
You don't. You can educate 2 kids for the price of incarcerating 1 adult.
You can educate, and we have a good tool right now in our post-secondary schools. We can educate our prisoners, and they can learn a degree or welding or any cabinetry, J.F. Ingram Technical School. I go down there quite often. Fantastic campus. Representative Williams, you've been there, I know. Representative Greer, I don't know if you've been there, but they do a great job. The recidivism rate, if you educate a prisoner, let me tell you, they're going to come out unless they're in for life. If you don't want them to return, number one, we need to give them their rights back when they come out. We need to give them their voting rights. We need to, in the state of Alabama, we need an expungement bill for nonviolent offenders. You can't take a kid that gets out of prison, or a young lady, or an older gentleman or older lady, and they get out of prison, they go apply for a job, and they interview, and they go, I have a felony on my record. Well, you're not gonna hire them. They can't get an insurance license. They can't get any professional license. If they're not good enough to get out of prison and get their rights back, then keep them in prison. But if we're gonna let them out, number one, let's educate them while they're in prison, and there's federal dollars there to be gotten to help us educate these people while they're in the system. And if we can teach them a trade, they can come out and be a productive tax-paying citizen. So you can go hand in hand and educate them while they're in prison. You're not taking money from the education system to give to the prison system. And we're allowing our ETF to fund it and educate them.
To piggyback off of that, there's an outfit in Birmingham, Alabama called the Maddie C. Stewart Foundation. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of that. A gentleman by the name of Shelley Stewart has, he does several things, but one of his ventures is a school bus called the Choice Bus. Half of it is a traditional school bus, the other half is an inmate bus. It tours around the state, it tours around the country actually. It's been in 48 states already, and kids walk on the front part of that. It's a typical school bus, but the second half of the bus is a square inch for square inch model prison cell. And for a lot of kids, it's their first time and prayerfully their last time being in that environment, but they're blown away by what they see when they walk in there. Wow, you have the lake right there, the toilet is right there, and they're amazed. The long-term solution to what we're talking about here is keeping kids out of prison in the first place. In the state of Alabama, 80% of the inmates in Alabama prisons are high school dropouts. That's not a coincidence. There's a huge correlation between dropping out of high school and ending up in prison. I agree with the other panelists have said so far, make education a priority, and our prison rate will dwindle. There will always be people in prison, I assume, but we can tamper that down by doing a better job at educating them.
All right, let's shift gears here. We're going to talk a little bit about charter schools. We've got several questions about that. First one, do you believe that the charter schools bill will eventually kill or severely injure public schools in Alabama? And will it lead to the resegregation of our schools?
I'll give it the first go. All the research I've seen, and I've looked at a ton of it, and whatever your position is on charter schools, you can go find somebody's research to support that position. But in a nutshell, charter schools are just like public schools. You got some that are excellent, you got most of them that are just average, you got some that are terrible. And that's been shown over and over and over. The problem with the charter school thing and so many other things is we're constantly looking for quick fixes. We want to find a Band-Aid to put on a problem, and we don't stop to try to figure out where the blood is coming from. And so somebody talks about charter schools, and we say, oh, well, we'll get some of those. So we're going to get, I was with a friend of mine today at lunch who's on the Charter School Commission. They had met this morning. Y'all won't believe how much effort is going into possibly having 10 charter schools one of these days. We've created a new bureaucracy in Montgomery, and we're doing, just doing a tremendous amount of work. And here's another thing about the charter school bill. We say, well, the local school system can convert some of their schools to a charter school, a conversion school. They can. And the language in the bill says when you do that, then you got to go find somebody to come in and run that school for you. So why would Trey Holiday want to give up one of his schools to some outsider to come in here and run it as a charter school bill? A charter school. It also says that if you become an authorizer of charter schools, which Athens is, and one of only 4 systems in the state, it says that you've got to become an advocate for charter schools. That's the language in the bill. And as Kathy Murphy, the superintendent in Hoover, told me, why do I want to get out and try to drum up competition for my own schools? So, I have no real qualm about charters. I just say, They're not a magic bullet. They haven't been anywhere else. And let's keep this in context. And this is where we fail all the time. Tomorrow morning, there'll be 730,000 kids go to a public school in the state of Alabama. And we're talking about we could have a maximum of 10 charter schools a year over 5 years. Let's say that's 10 schools with 300 kids, that's 3,000 out of 730,000 kids. To me, we're just not looking at the big picture. We get all ginned up about these sexy things, and we forget about the kids in Lowndes County and God knows where all else that just keep getting thrown away. I'm sorry.
That's why I like that guy so much. Another thing to keep in perspective about charter schools is the fact that a lot of the things that people think that they'll magically be able to do if they open a charter school are doable in the schools that they're in. Our state superintendent, Dr. Tommy Bice, has a huge platform in terms of schools being innovative. There are schools in Mobile that open in the evenings. I don't know the exact hours, but they, I think, open at noon and close at 8. About a year ago, we went around this state on a tour we called the Future of Education Tour. We took 6 weeks, 12 stops, late August to early October, all across the state. And one of the things that Dr. Bias opened up every presentation with was, why do we go to school from 7:30 to 3:30? Where is it written in code or in law that we have to do that? Why are we in school from August to May? Where is it written in code or in law that we have to do that? A lot of the licenses and a lot of the permissions that people think that are available only under the context of a charter school can be available in the school that they're in if they took the initiative to be innovative and put a program forward that would do the things that they think that they can only do under a charter school. So there are those types of benefits that are available now.
Let me add one thing. I'm going to read some language that was in the appropriations bill that was passed back in the spring. And we were told we're going to get charter schools and it's not going to cost us any money. That's what they said. Here's the language. It's dealing with $9.6 million under something called current units. It's been in the paper lately. The above appropriation includes funds for startup public charter schools. That's taking money out of the Education Trust Fund and directing them to some charter schools. And if you start, basically what you're doing with charter schools is you're starting another school system. We don't have money to afford the one we got now.
I just want to say for the record, I'm opposed to charter schools. Since we're filming today, I think it's a Ponzi scheme, so I'm highly opposed to charter schools. I think it's another regular EPF in the state of Pennsylvania. There's been over $100 million in fraud in charter schools. Why we want to try charter schools, I have no idea. Let's invest in what we got.
You know, of course, I find myself amazed how much I agree with Representative Ford tonight, but his dad was one of my best friends in the legislature years ago, and I sat next to him. But, you know, you've got to give every community a possibility, a chance for a possibility to have a good school system. Now, we sit here in the Tennessee Valley, and y'all come sit down with us once a year, and let's look at the school systems in this state. We've got good school systems. We got some of the best in the state right here in the valley. You don't have to find that everywhere. So why would you take a community in a certain county, maybe in South Alabama, and tell that community, look, they want to start all over. They want a charter school system. They've been in the current system for 100-something years and it didn't work. And I'm not a big promoter of charter schools, but I do think that taxpayers in this state ought to have some authority as to where their school money is being spent. And if they can build a charter school in their district and promote it and make a good school system, then I'm all for it.
All right, this next question, I think, deals sort of with professional standards in relationship to charter schools. It said, I'm a student here at Athens State University, studying to be a public educator. I understand that under public charter schools, one does not need more than a high school diploma to be hired as a teacher. If that's so, why would our state government take jobs away from professionals and give them to people who have not even expanded their knowledge on any one subject? Anyone want to address that?
Well, just to confirm what was said, that the charter school law expressly does not require teachers in public charter schools to have a teaching certificate. Actually, there is not even a high school diploma requirement. There are no credentialing requirements for charter schools whatsoever. The concept was, well, if a charter school is dumb enough to go hire an entire faculty of high school dropouts, then they'll just close in a few years because they can't handle the competition and their student scores will suffer. No, who will suffer is those kids who are there for 4 years while we're waiting on that charter school to close because uncertified, unqualified people are cheaper. So that is the whole idea there.
All right, we'll move on here. One more question regarding charter schools. So under the guidelines tab for public charter schools, it states that these schools will empower educators to be nimble and strategic in their decisions on behalf of students. Question is then, why not empower all teachers instead of spending money on charter schools?
I just agree with the statement. I think it's 100% correct, and I think, once again, the morale in the classroom is at an all-time low. That's just my opinion, and educators don't do it for the money. Educators are educating people that are probably going to get out of college making twice as much as they're making right now teaching. You know, I tell people this back home, what's wrong with it? Public education doesn't happen from 7:30 in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon. What's wrong with public education is what's happening from 4 p.m. till 7:30 a.m. So we got to quit blaming educators and start supporting our education system, start supporting our public educators. We can't change, you can't legislate morality, and you can't force parents to teach their kids how to study. And a lot of children go home, unfortunately, to a single parent home or no parent home, to a grandparent home, or something that maybe we weren't fortunate enough to grow up in. So we have to quit taking out a lot of the problems with public education on our educators. It's not their fault. So, you know, once again, I'm just opposed to charter schools, and I think we need to help support our public educators.
I want to chime in on something to follow up on what Mike said when he said, and what Craig alluded to, when he talked about wraparound services and supporting the whole student and that sort of thing. I visit a lot of schools, and I rarely ever go in one that isn't a high poverty school. And by that I mean 60, 70, 80% poverty level, free and reduced lunches. In every one of those schools, I've asked the principal, give me a guesstimation of how many of your parents or how many of your kids come from a single parent home. The lowest number I've ever heard was 50%. And in Selma, one principal told me it was probably 90%. And when you get to know these principals like I do, they will tell you stories about individual children that will blow you away. The lady I had lunch with today, Terry Tomlinson in Montgomery, was principal at George Hall Elementary School for 10 years, a wonderful inner city school in Mobile. 5 years ago, I'm sitting in her office, and she looked, we just talked. She said, you know what I need? I said, what? She said, a shower. She's K through 5. I said, Terry, you don't have a football team? Why do you need a shower? She said, Larry, you won't believe how many of these kids come to school from homes where the water's been turned off. And through some friends of mine, we raised some money, we put a shower in. And every time I talk to a civic club, I always start my remarks by saying, how many of y'all didn't have running water this morning? No hands ever go up. But this is the reality of what we're dealing with in so many of these places these days. And I'll give you one quick little lesson. You've never heard of Lee's Law of 88-12. Now, some of you may want to write this down. In 1 year's time, there's 8,760 hours. That's how many all of us in this room have. In Alabama, we require a child to go to school for 1,080 hours. That's 12% of the year. But yet, we put all our resources into 12%, we ignore the 88%, and we wonder why things ain't getting better in school.
Larry makes a great point. One of the stories I remember Dr. Bice telling when we did the Future of Education tour was a school that he visited in some part of Alabama, and there were children at that school who needed counseling services. And like Mr. Lee said, some of the circumstances that children deal with are things that are beyond comprehension for most of us in this room. The problem was that a lot of the students that needed the counseling services just weren't going. The principal said they're not going to the counseling services. Well, where are the counseling services? Where are they available? Well, they're downtown, wherever it was. There's a transportation issue, there's a time issue, all of these other things. The philosopher Voltaire said no problem can withstand the assault of constant thinking. A couple of people put their heads together, very simple thing, we have an extra room right here, let's have the person from the counseling service downtown come to your school as opposed to having your students go to the counseling service. Fixed a lot of the problems. Students were able to go to the counseling services and get the help that they needed while on campus, eliminating the need for additional transportation and hours out of school and things like that. We just have to kind of think outside of the box, be innovative, and find different ways to, like Larry said, take those hours that are outside of the school and see how they can work collaboratively with the time that they're in school.
And real quick, I want to chime in on something Dr. Sibley said earlier. Before the Accountability Act became the Accountability Act, it was a flexibility bill. It was a bill designed to let school systems be innovative, come up with ways to empower their educators, to think outside the box, and quite frankly, do everything a charter school can do. So, the Accountability Act aside, those flexibility provisions are still there. So any district that wants to empower their educators, believe me, I will be there with bells on to help them write their flexibility proposal. It is just a matter of the will to do it. You do not need a charter school for it.
All right, let's shift gears here again. RSA and the pensions, teacher pensions and things, and we'll let Representative Greer, I guess, start with this question since he's the co-chair of the committee and things. But the question here is, what is the difference in paying the state required to contribute to RSA and what your committee has talked about contributing to a 401k? Why or what is the reasoning for changing or considering the change from a defined benefit to a 401k since the state will contribute either way?
Well, I'm not sure that's gonna happen now. Representative Williams and I, like I say, we spent the day today on the pension committee, and it's 8 House members and 8 senators, and we were charged with responsibility of trying to get it back on its feet. Now, most people don't have a clue the shape that your pension system is in. Just don't know. The Decatur Daily had an editorial the other day telling I was wanting to take money from, and the Times Daily copied it, won't take money from the